Hey there, Booktube! Chelsea, the Reading Outlaw, here to do a special night filming evening after hours edition of my channel, The Reading Outlaw. We're here today to talk about some stuff, and I watched a video today, a video many of you have probably seen or heard of, or have kind of heard murmurings of making the rounds. That is yet another white booktuber talking about the reaction towards a problematic social media posting. So I saw this, and then I saw a couple different response videos go up. I'll link to some of the ones that I really liked down below, especially one from Monica, from She Might Be Monica. And then I was reading on Twitter, and I was reading a lot of threads from a lot of creators that I really admire who are getting really, really tired of some things, which we'll get back to. And so I started making notes and coming up with this whole big long thing they wanted to do. And then I kind of put my pen down and I thought, you know what, I'm really fucking tired. And my exhaustion doesn't even come close to some of the things other people are dealing with. So I thought, I don't have the energy to come up with a big scripted thing to tell you guys, but I do have the energy to drink and film it and talk to you guys about race and representation and talking about it and being problematic. So let's do that, yeah? Connoisseur of liquors that I am, we are knocking back some Fireball tonight. So, cheers. Ooh. Like a boss. Oh, it's like a liquid red hot. All right, so first off, I want to say a couple of things, two things. This video will not apply to everyone. I'm going to use some kind of generalized terms specifically and talking to fellow white people. I'm fully aware this does not pertain to all white people. I'm also going to use some more general terms like booktubers and booktube as a community. I know that this does not apply to all booktubers or all aspects of the booktube community. All caveats aside, there's some shit we need to talk about. So here's the thing. The video that I'm talking about was essentially referencing a social media post on Instagram in which a Bookstagram person put up a cover of Carve the Mark, or a copy of Carve the Mark, which is a super racist, super ableist young adult book that Veronica Roth just put out. And this person had painted their arm blue and in gold had painted symbols that are in the novel. But here's the thing. That is super triggering to a lot of people who have struggled with self-harm. Not something that's triggering to me. Doesn't matter, respect it's triggering for a lot of people. I guess somehow that turned into this Bookstagram girl getting bullied and has led to a lot of people one specific person in this video to kind of come to their defense and to talk about how critical Booktube is and how mean Booktube can be. First of all, I don't particularly agree with that in a lot of ways, in a lot of contexts. I feel like if that's the booktube that you're seeing, that there are a lot of better places in booktube that you could be looking. I feel like this is a community that has a lot of really great things going on and a lot of really great people in it. That being said, booktube has a huge problem with race and representation and the intersections of that and how we talk about books. So here's the thing, guys. White people specifically, I'm looking at you. When it comes to race or other forms of bigotry, xenophobia, homophobia, ableism, sexism, all of those things, it's if you don't see it the first time, that doesn't necessarily make you a bad person. Learning the skills to see those things can take time. But because of that, and because we're all still learning, we need to listen to the people who have already fucking done it, and they've already been there, and they know what to look for, and they know what the descriptors are, and the coders are, and the things that are just fucking flat out racist. I'm sorry, Carve the Mark is racist. I'm not sorry. I'm just gonna fucking say it. Carve the Mark is racist. And if you didn't see that the first time, that doesn't make you a bad person. It doesn't make you a racist. It makes you a product of a society that teaches members of a dominant or non-minority society to not read as there being something wrong with those narratives. So that's what it is. But at the same time, when somebody of a minority group comes at you and is like, hey man, that shit's really racist, it's really offensive, and it's really harmful, fucking listen. I just cannot anymore, guys. People need to stop talking and listen. And I realize the irony of me as a white person making this video about stopping talking. I get it. But there is this inherent doubt of minorities and people of color and marginalized communities that they don't know what they're talking about when they say that a piece of media is harmful or misrepresentative or racist or what. Like, I just don't understand. And it seems very easy to me that if you don't know and you aren't sure, that you would listen to people who might belong to that non-dominant community when they talk about issues of representation. It's really, really, really privileged to be able to say that it's a benefit to not see those things. Being colorblind is bullshit. It's also, this is going to kind of shift into the second part. You know, before we shift, we're going to have more to drink before we get into the second part of this conversation. Whoo, this video is just flying by. All right. Cheers. Oh, man. All right. So this gets us into the second part of the video that I wanted to talk about. Or one of the second. This gets us into the next thing that I want to talk about, which is the concept of trigger warnings. This video made a point to talk about trigger warnings and this idea that, like, well, we can't trigger warn for everything and the internet can't be a safe space for everyone. And you're just going to have to learn to deal with your triggers because we can't warn for everything and blah, blah, blah. I don't necessarily disagree with that. I do think that there is, you know, a pretty reasonable set core, like, group of experiences that we can say are probably going to be triggering to a lot of people. Things like self-harm, rape, sexual abuse, domestic violence, eating disorders, things that, you know, on a general consensus we can agree are going to harm a pretty large percentage of people. But we can't trigger warn for everything. That's fair. That's valid. But that underlies, like, an inherent assumption that trigger warnings are supposed to be read as, like, Surgeon General's warnings on cigarette packages, and they're not. Like, you can read a book that has trigger warnings for something that triggers you, but then you know going into it that there's something in there that might trigger you so you can be prepared. Like, it's not like a do not read this book thing. It's like a, hey, if this is a thing that bothers you, or this is a thing that affects you, it's going to come up in this book. So, like, be aware of that, whether that means you don't read the book, which is a valid option, or it means that, like, you read it and take the necessary steps to prepare yourself, and then you, like, move on from there. It just really bothers me that there's this dismissiveness of trigger warnings that comes along with this idea of everyone being, like, a special snowflake, and we need to, like, cater to all of these things. And, like, really, it's the people who are asking, that I know who are asking for trigger warnings, are just asking for a basic level of, like, in-depth reviewing when it comes to their books. Like, it's very, very interesting to me, this idea that because we ask to be warned, or because this idea that it's good to warn people that there's stuff that's coming up that might bother them, that is somehow not acceptable. Like, I don't know. It's like, to me, it's like when you go to see a horror movie and you're like, hey man, I know that you don't really like blood and guts, so maybe don't go see this horror movie. Like, it's no different than that. And if your friend wants to go see that movie, there's nothing wrong with that. And that's still fully their decision to make. The reason that I'm making this video, and the reason that I seem to be going all over the place and I'm so scatterbrained, is because it's affecting a lot of people that I care for very, very deeply. And here's the thing at the end of the day. All this booktube shit is just for fun. There are maybe half a dozen to a dozen people who are making legitimate, serious money, like career money, doing this booktube shit. It's not most of us. It's not me. It's not a lot of the creators that I really admire who are literally being run into the fucking ground, because guess what, guys? We live in a world where white people don't get the benefit of the doubt anymore. We don't get the credit. We have to show up and do the fucking work because we've had literally an entire history of not doing it. And maybe that's unfair to you because you've never done anything to harm a person of color or to harm a minority or to harm somebody who's trans or a member of the queer community. But it doesn't matter. As a person of privilege, I include myself in that community. It's up to us to show up and do the fucking work. By which I mean, Google something before you interject yourself into a conversation about race or class or sexuality. Do a basic Wikipedia search of the people and things that you're talking about. If you're talking about a chain of videos or a series of articles or media events that happen, inform yourself on those things. Don't ask people of color and marginalized communities to do it for you, because guess what? They're busy fighting for the fucking right to exist and the fucking right to have their existence and rights recognized by the country in which they're living. I'm, of course, speaking of people in the United States. Although I understand that the UK and Brexit and everybody's dealing with their own set of things in the world, but I'm specifically referencing people who live here in the United States, because I know so many people and have talked to so many people, women specifically, women of color more specifically, who I love and whose voices I admire, who are stepping back and who are pulling their opinions and voices out of this community because they can't emotionally handle the overwhelming stress of having this thing that is a hobby being turned into yet another battleground that they have to fight on every single fucking day when they already have to do that every single fucking day in real realms that matter a whole fuck ton more than BookTube does. And in realms that matter a whole lot fucking more than BookTube does. So the bottom line is that I understand that it can come from this place of anxiety, and it can come from this place of people feeling that, like, if they like something and then someone says, hey, that thing that you like is racist, you feel an inherent and instinctual need to defend yourself in liking that thing because you think, oh no, if I like this racist thing, I must be racist. Or if I like this thing that's homophobic or is transphobic or is ableist, then I am all of those things because I read it and I enjoyed it. But that's a separate distinction. We have to separate those two things from one another. And we have to recognize that you can like a thing and also say, but that thing has all of these problems and that doesn't make it okay. And you have to draw the line. And so I understand this inherent defensiveness that comes from that. But when we get defensive as human beings, we shut down and we don't listen. And if we don't listen, we can't learn and then can't overcome that defensiveness. So just listen. Your life is not going to end if you don't get to read Carve the Mark. Nothing is going to happen if you skip everything. It's okay. There are so many other books and so many other amazing books and stories that you can share and take part in, and fan communities that you can find a home in that are not built around things that are misogynistic or racist or oppressive in their ideologies. It's not that it's easy, but it's also not that hard. There are people out there talking about it and doing it. I will leave you some links down below if that's what you're looking for. I want to end on the note that, like, I get that it's hard, guys. I get that right now it's hard to be a white person because you're being made to answer for a history of white people being the dominant class. But guess what? It's 10,000 times fucking harder to do that same fight when you've never had your existence recognized to begin with. Legally, institutionally, culturally, when you deal with erasure and you deal with silencing and you deal with microaggressions and all form of oppression that I can't speak to on a personal level because I don't experience them because I'm white and I'm bisexual but married to a man, so I can hide that part of my sexuality in a public scenario. That's not something people are going to know just by looking at me. And I'm a woman, so I deal with microaggressions based on that. But even that comes from a lens of white feminism. Like, it's all layers upon layers with each other, but it's one of those things where it's not as hard to be white and to reconcile and account for that as it is to be a person of color and to fight for the entire world to recognize that you exist and you have a right to exist. To me, it's just that simple. It's just as hard as you think the fight is, and as much as you feel attacked, and as much as you feel bullied, and as much as you feel all of those feelings, like, quadruple it, quintuple it, fucking whatever 10 is, upple it. Like, we need to talk less and listen more, because we are driving away people from this community who have opinions and voices and thoughts that we can't afford to lose because they're valuable. They're valuable, they're insightful, they're eloquent, and they're from a lens that we don't have enough of. We don't have enough people of color. We don't have enough sexual diversity in BookTube. We don't have enough gender disparity in terms of gender identity. There's not enough of it. So the voices we do have, we shouldn't be pushing away and we shouldn't be silencing. And right now, that's what we're doing. When we call it drama and dismiss it as just this special snowflake, people being too sensitive thing, we inherently undercut and undo all of the work that the people of color and the people of queer orientation in this community are doing to fight, to educate, to represent, and to share, and to have a hobby that they love. And it saddens me and sickens me that there are so many great creators I know who are pulling back because this is a front that they just can't fight on anymore. And we are the ones losing for that. We are losing. So yeah, I don't know. I have this Miller High Life, the champagne of beers. I'm probably going to go drink that and then watch some more of the Santa Clarita Diet and read some Boy Meets World fan fiction, because that's really all I'm doing right about now. Thank you so much for watching this video. It's 15 minutes long. we'll see when I watch it back tomorrow if it makes any sense. As always, you can comment down below. Please comment. Please share this video. I open myself up. If you are white and you have questions about issues of representation or where to go for people who can speak on those topics better, please come ask me before you ask a person of color who might already be busy fighting a million other fights. I will help you out. I will link you up. I will boost up other voices that you need to hear, but please come to me before you come to a person of color and put another burden on them. All right, well, yeah, that's it. No more tipsy tangents for me, you guys. Comment, subscribe, like, share. Come back and see me next time. Take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. Have happy reading. Bye.